Right. Now this is a graph that I want to talk about a little bit, and I'll start on it here, and maybe we'll have to come back to it. But there's a lot in this. This ridiculous MATLAB script made this, and so I want to kind of, because we're going to get back to this with the Pollyanna thing, and I want to explain how this instrument kind of works, right? We've made a language-based, this lexical instrument, and it has some aspects that I feel are like a physical instrument. There's sort of a tunable knob on the side. There's a lens kind of quality to it. Right, so what's going on? So we have 10,000 words, and they have these average scores between 1 and 9. So once again, about 50 people rate them. So 5 is neutral, positive, very positive out here, very negative out here. So this is a histogram for the English words that we have from Mechanical Turk. So 10,000 words. And maybe I didn't say this as well, but we also rated the ANU words, and they correlate. So the scores we got on Mechanical Turk correlate very strongly with the scores that the ANU study obtained, and that again was with Florida, University of Florida students who were forced to do it, and we paid a small amount to these people on Mechanical Turk, and Mechanical Turk people are from, and I think this is still the case, the US and India, right? So the idea was, it was both those countries you could pay people, and they're English speaking enough that you could create a sort of system that's going all around the clock. So later on, when we wanted to get Spanish and we wanted to get things like Portuguese, that was actually really not even available on Mechanical Turk because there's just not enough people who spoke that as a native language. Certainly say, Korean or something like that. So I'll talk about it, what we did there. We went outside of Mechanical Turk. So here's our histogram. And there's something that took a long time to kind of really appreciate in a deep way, but there's a bit of a skew to the right. Right? There are more positive words than more negative words. So we'll get to that later on. But the idea was, well, we've got all these words in here like the and of and that are neutral. We've got all those swear words. We've got things like whiskey and so on. They were also around here, but they had high standard deviation, meaning that people were divided in their opinion or spread out in their opinion about them. So and then there's kind of everything in between those two extremes, right? People are very sure about the, and it's a very boring word, or a neutral word, and then there are words that people are very unsure about. They're freighted with meaning, but we're not going to be able to really use them well. So tried a few things here, but then this idea emerged that if we start at 5 and then open up a little window, and what's indicated here is a window with this plus or minus 1, right? So this is this delta H average is 1 here, so there's a window of size 2, plus or minus 1. So we're just going to open up this little window and we'll throw out all of those words. So we're going to measure, we're going to get our text, we're going to count all the words, but we're just going to ignore the ones that we don't have scores for, and then moreover we're going to ignore the words that are in this band in the middle. And that's going to help us because we don't really need the in there, we don't, right? And they count, and words like the and of, they're so predominant that they're going to kind of overwhelm the scores as well. They're going to like mollify everything. So that's going to help us. Now we're going to have like really clearly more positive and really more negative words, and it's going to sharpen things up. So this is a lensing effect, and this is a principal way of creating a list of stop words. So stop words have often been used and it's sort of a funny framing. It's basically these are words we just ignore in our thing, and they're usually just a little hand-curated list. Like articles and prepositions and pronouns, just throw them out. Even though they potentially have lots and lots of meaning, actually, especially pronouns. All right, so we're going to do that, and then we're going to make this variable, right? So now we have a little knob we can dial here, and it's going to go from 0 out to 3, right? So the big extreme will be actually throwing everything out from, right? We'll just have these negative ones here and a few positive ones up here, so it's really going to be sharp. And as you go through there, this is 0 up to just 2 in this case. As you go up, you see this is Twitter. So this is just as an example. This is Twitter's time series from back in 2008, 2011. What you see is you're throwing out this middle piece. It's actually lifting the average happiness score. So again, we saw this with lyrics, right? The average happiness score is a little variable, and it's really about the relative changes And as you throw out more of these words, and we're increasingly just focused on more really negative and really negative, really positive words, you see the range go up, right? So this is becoming more pronounced. It's very sort of minimal here. It's there, right? You can see this is our Christmas and New Year's, but now it's like whoop, whoop, right? So this is like increasing the contrast on an image. It's becoming sharper. The boundaries are becoming sharper. And as you go further up, as you go to 3, you throw out too many words, and eventually this whole thing just falls apart. It's going to go splat, right? So the question then is, like, is there a sort of anywhere in this range that makes sense, right? That is consistent. And so that's what this plot shows. On this axis here and this axis here, we have the width of that, or the half width of the stop window. And as we increase it from just 0, so that's where we include all words out to 3, what we're doing here is just correlating time series with each other, right? So this little color here, this is a stop window of 2 correlated with a stop window of 0. So it's this one with this one. How do they correlate with each other? And so as the window opens up, you've got a pretty consistent thing. So these ones look like each other, even though the offset's changing. They look like each other. But then we get a break around about a half, and you see a pretty good consistency out between a half and 2.5. And it's not perfectly perfect, but this is the, it's this end. That's a bit of an unfortunate thing. They're very well correlated with each other. And then it breaks, right? So once we get above 2.5, it breaks again, and we've sort of gotten rid of too many things. There are big jumps in terms of, like, you lose the word no at some point. So as you go out here, there are words that are quite frequent, and then they just disappear, and that can be a sharp change in how your instrument works. The upshot of this is that you can dial this thing between a half and 2.5, and you'll get the same characteristic shapes, but as you go out here, you get a much more extreme thing. You've got less words, so you need more words underneath in your text. You need a bigger text to kind of analyze to start with, and you're throwing more things away. It's a more brittle kind of instrument, but it's going to, like, really pick things out. But it means you can dial things and kind of get different stories out, right? The word shifts will change because you're including or excluding words, right? They all change. There's nothing necessarily we can say is fundamental. We can also do things like this. We can say, let's just get rid of all of these words and just have a negative filter, right? So that's possible too, or just a positive filter. And then later on, and we see we sort of got somewhere with this, but we don't have all the scores for the words. You could have a filter for just words that are about fear or words that are about anger and so on. This is a big, negative words are all out here. They're all grouped together. All right, let me just add one more thing. I guess I can finish what's going on here. This is, as we open this window, these are how many words we have, right? So we started with 10,222 words for which we had scores, and that's just going to decay as we open that window up. And I'm kind of indicating 1 here over and over again because this is a good one, right? Sort of in the middle, the time series matches up pretty well with all the time series around it. You've still got a good number of words. We still have close to 4,000 words, so it's going to fit language pretty well. This is the coverage of Twitter itself. When we have 10,000 words to start with, we cover about over 80% of it, and that's going to decay. We're covering about 20-something% of it. And this corresponds to these time series, right? So as we go out in word rank, so this is looking at the zip ordering, so this is the, of, so and so on, out to 20,000. This is how well each of these filters cover it, right? So if we have a 0, if we just have all the words, then it has all of those words out to about 5,000 because we really have 5,000, and then it just starts to decay. We have words from New York Times and from Google Books and so on that may hit some of these as well out here. And that's what's happening with these. They fit pretty well, the most commonly used ones, and then they start to decay out here. This is a little more detailed, but this is a very worrying thing. Like, is your instrument actually fitting the text? And so this was sort of a big proof, really, that it's very robust. I know we've got to go. It's very robust, and we'll get to another level of robustness later on. It'll connect the frequency of usage of these things with their positivity and negativity. So it's tunable, like a microscope, and you can put on different lenses, which in this case is collections of words. And you can make that lens a tunable thing, but you could just say, oh, I just want those guys. Lexical meters is just about happiness. It could be used for all sorts of things in general, right? So there's a lot of potential expansion into other realms. All right, sorry that took a bit longer to say, but I think it was good to get through that one slide there.